Bill Winston is a famous preacher, businessman, author, and speaker whose lessons on faith, wealth, and success have inspired millions of people around the world. As the founder and senior pastor of Forest Park, Illinois' Living Word Christian Center, he has built a successful organization that gives people the tools they need to live by biblical standards. Winston has made a name for himself as a leading voice in modern Christian leadership through his vast work in business education, the media, and community development. William Samuel Winston, who is better known as Bill Winston, was born in Tuskegee, Alabama on May 6, 1943. Winston grew up in a place with a lot of African American history. The Tuskegee Airmen, a group of pioneering African American military pilots who served in World War II, had a big impact on his life. He was moved by their bravery and determination, which made him want to become an airline pilot. Because flying was his dream, he joined the U.S. Air Force and trained to be a fighter pilot. He flew during the Vietnam War. During his time in the military, he flew the fast F-4 Phantom jet and was praised for his excellent service. His time as a pilot helped him become a better leader and gave him a strong sense of discipline, focus, and faith, all of which would be very important to him in his business and church work. Winston went from being in the military to working for a company by becoming a manager at IBM Corporation. Because he was good at leadership, strategic thought, and coming up with new ideas, he quickly moved up the ranks at IBM. He was known as a top-performing sales executive, and it looked like he would do well in the business world. Winston did a lot of good things, but he felt a call to serve God in a different way. He felt more and more compelled to spend the rest of his life. He chose to be a minister, which meant he would finally leave the business world. Winston and his wife Veronica moved to Chicago in 1983 so that he could work full-time in the church. He started the Living Word Christian Center in 1988 with only a few people. They met in a small storefront. He wanted to build a church that put a lot of emphasis on faith, spiritual wealth, and the Bible's power to change people's lives. The church's membership grew by leaps and bounds over time, and it had to move into a bigger building to fit all of its new members. Living Word Christian Center is now one of the most important churches in the U.S. It has thousands of members and a strong focus on faith-based business and economic development. Winston has made a big difference in the world through his work in business and the media, in addition to his work with the church. He started the Joseph Business School, which is a recognized school that teaches aspiring business owners the biblical concepts and skills they need to do well in the market. The school has grown around the world and now has branches in many countries, helping people start businesses and make their towns more economically viable. Bill Winston Ministries is another part of his work that touches millions of people around the world through TV shows, books, online classes, and conferences. His TV show, Believer's Walk of Faith, is shown all over the world and spreads lessons of faith, success, and biblical wealth. Winston is an important author who has written many important books such as The Kingdom of God in You, Faith in the Marketplace, The Law of Confession, and Training for Reigning. All of these books stress the transformative power of faith in personal, professional, and financial success. Winston has won many awards and honors over the course of his career for his work in business, education, the church, and community development. He is still in high demand as a speaker at leadership events and conferences, where he talks about faith, entrepreneurship, and success. People are encouraged by his lessons to break free from limitations, have a winning attitude, and reach their full God-given potential. Veronica Winston is married to Bill Winston. She is also a powerful leader, teacher, and author. They have raised a family that is devoted to religion and service. Winston is well known around the world, but he stays close to his church and neighborhood, always trying to encourage and help those around him. People look up to Bill Winston as a strong example of how faith, vision, and drive can change lives. From being a military pilot to a successful businessman and preacher, his life shows how much he believes in God's promises and wants to help others reach their full potential. Millions of people are still inspired by his ministry, businesses, and teachings to live by faith, be wealthy, and achieve their divine purpose. Bill Winston's whole life has been about teaching people to have faith and trust in God's promises. His trip from being an Air Force fighter pilot to a successful preacher and business owner, his life has been full of wins. But behind his unwavering strength and words of faith was a deep sadness that was one of the hardest things he had ever had to deal with. When he got the call that would change everything, it was a cold evening. The person on the other end of the line was shaking and having trouble finding the right words. The caller said, "Bill, I have some bad news." As he stood up, his heart was beating fast. "That's your brother. He has died." A wave of shock went through him. He had been able to talk to his brother about anything and had been there for him through all of life's ups and downs. Bill went into preaching and his brother went into business, but they had always had a close bond, strong link, and help each other in ways that only family could. It was awful to think that he would never hear his brother's voice again, laugh with him, or share a quiet moment with him. Bill was sad for days and kept asking himself if he had done enough. Had he told his brother he loved them? Had he told you everything he needs to? It hurt him a lot to feel guilty about what he did. He had spent years teaching others how to have faith and trust God through hard times, but now he was having a hard time using that same faith to deal with his own pain. His wife, Veronica, was with him the whole time. She held his hand while he sat still and thought. She gave him the strength he had given to so many others. She brought to his mind the Bible verses he had been reading from the pulpit. Verses about how God comforts us and turns our sadness into joy. Also, their children crowded around him and prayed for him, loved him, and helped him. Being there, Bill was always close to his family, who made him feel better and reminded him that he wasn't alone. People in his church noticed how sad he looked. The man who had always been strong, full of hope and energy, seemed to be less loud. Even though his lectures were still powerful, those closest to him could feel a sadness in them. He didn't hide his sadness. He told his friends about it. He told them one Sunday, "Faith does not mean we will never be sad. It means we trust God to carry us through even when we're sad." He got so much love that it was overwhelming. People in the church wrote him letters of support, telling him about times they had lost loved ones and how his lessons had helped them get through them. Some people just hugged him and told him, "Pastor, we're praying for you." Even people in his ministry reached out to him to offer their condolences and tell him that grief is a normal part of life, even for those who are closest to God. Little by little, the pain got better. It made him feel better to think about the fun things they did together as kids, the goals they shared, and how they had supported each other through life. He also knew that his brother's influence would live on, not just in the past, but also in the lives of the people he touched. Bill took his sadness and turned it into his work, using it to help other people who were also suffering. During his sermons, he talked about loss more freely. He reassured his audience that faith doesn't erase pain, but it does give us the strength to get through it. He set up new programs through the church to help people who had lost loved ones. This way, no one in his community would have to go through sadness by themselves. His family was there for him, and their faith helped them all get better. They held each other up and prayed together. They remembered his brother in the best way they knew how, by continuing to live with meaning. After some time, Bill Winston came out of his sad time not as someone who had lost everything, but as someone who had grown stronger. Because of his pain, he had a deeper knowledge of God's grace, which made him a better minister. Even though the pain of losing his brother never went away, he kept going because he knew that love is stronger than death and that they would meet again one day. Until then, he would keep on his mission, telling people to have faith, hope, and the word that God's promises are still true, even when bad things happen. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much for your help. Don't forget to like and comment on this video if you liked it. Please let me know what you think. We'll see you next time.